Hi everyone.
Hello, hello.
Is the sound okay?
Everyone can hear. I can
Okay.
speak loudly.
Okay. Hi everyone. I'm
Hello?
really happy
Yeah.
to see
Hello?
that much people here. My name is Daria Krasnova. I'm a managing editor at Being Crypto. We're one of the largest media in the world, covering all things Web3 in like 15 or 16 languages.
Hello?
Honestly,
Hello?
I don't remember, but whatever. Before we start, let's ask our
Hello?
panelists to
Hello?
introduce themselves.
This one doesn't work too, so we have problems. Let me. Hey, in the back, can you hear me? Yeah, I think it's okay. So I have really. Okay. Whatever. Let's go. Wag me. All right. Nag me. Sorry. Oh, wag me. One.
Hold it up higher. That's the.
Okay. Sorry, I'm too stupid for the microphone. All right. So hi everyone. My name is Marcin. I'm a co-founder of Redstone Oracles, and also co-founder of ETH Warsaw, which is a conference and hackathon in Poland. With Redstone, what we do is we try to innovate on the Oracle space because the traditional push model that has been adapted very well across the whole DeFi and Web3 space in general, we believe is not necessarily scalable. And at scale, at large, is truly gas inefficient and cannot create the new generation of financial system towards which we are all like kind of heading, right? So yeah, I would chat a bit more later, like how we innovate in the space, but this is in a nutshell.
Hello, everyone. Does it work? Yes. Yes. Okay. I'm Frank, co-founder of Giza. We are building a scalable CKML platform, specifically for DeFi, where we help from the data part, model, end-to-end lifecycle, deployment, scalability, and integration with your protocol. So that's the summary.
Name's Kyle Rojas. I oversee Echo. Oversee global business at Edge and Node, which is the initial team behind the graph, and now one of many core devs building out the technology for the world. And the graph is an indexing technology where Redstone is writing stuff and all the transactions writing stuff on the blockchain. Blockchain is the recording layer, the graph is the read layer to allow people or enable people to organize that information and flow into a front end. It's used by many thousands of dApps around the world across 40 plus chains.
Can I have my mic back? Thank you. So, okay, first of all, let's dive into the current state of infrastructure and, of course, its challenges. Can you please tell me how are your projects addressing the interoperability problems? And the most important one, what do you believe is the key to create a seamlessly interconnected ecosystem?
Yeah, I can start. Yeah, that is a problem in a big way for lots of virtual machine ecosystems. Right now, again, the graph's 40 plus chains, but you need one API, a subgraph, assembly script subgraph, on each chain if you're Uniswap across many, and some have dozens of subgraphs across dozens of chains, and that lack of interoperability is a friction point. And so that's just in like the EVM world. And we've integrated Solana and Near and some others, Cosmos Hub and Osmosis, but what about the EVM to non-EVM worlds? And that's a big issue, especially as we see so many new chains and ecosystems coming out. So what we're working on is we recently launched a Rust-based API that not only enables non-EVM chains in a much easier way, but it enables cross-chain data composability. And that's a big part of what we see of data needs to travel across blockchains, across dApps, in an open source permissionless way, because that's what enables really fast innovation, and fast innovation is the leading indicator for survivability, I'd say thrivability for anything. Yeah, so we're working on a lot of different things, but I'd say that's one thing that recently came out, that Rust-based API that is really powerful across different chains, among many other things.
Yeah, I can go next. From our side, we are building machine learning solutions for DeFi protocols. The biggest concern they have is, one, how they build their machine learning solution in terms of privacy of the solution, as well as how they can put on the edge of their protocol this solution. And we have many types of different chains. We have EVM compatible chains, we have non-EVM chains, and you need to adapt to all these solutions. So we facilitate through a platform all these integration, so we support verification on EVMs, non-EVMs. We provide through our open source framework that is Orion, the way for all the people to build the solutions as they want to build them, more focus on privacy, more focus on just verifiability, if you want performance, if they want just secure verification. We help with all the needs, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so in our understanding at Redstone, and also my personal, is that we need to stick to standards that have been established on the market, and then try to create like an ecosystem around them. And until the point that it's not, let's say, sustainable, or we found, let's say, an inflection point of a new technology that we should swap to, then we should do that. But before, we should stick to the layer that is pretty well established. And here, for example, I'm talking about EVMs. It became a kind of like a canon. I remember a year ago when we were going to conferences, it still wasn't that much, I would say, like beaten. It was already like a pretty team. But right now, I think, who doesn't know what an EVM is? Maybe raise your hand. Okay, so I suppose that also tells like a year ago the panel was opening like EVM, Ethereum virtual machine compatible, whatever. Now we just say EVM because like it's kind of like running thing. So in my opinion, we created a really good base layer for that, and then we have other technologies that try to break to be, let's say, like a second or the alternative. And then one we see like a good adoption that people love something and it's very, very sticky. So it's not like, let's say, liquidity mining or like just a fad or like a temporary thing, but people stick to that and showcase like a true advantage of it, then we keep on like building ecosystem around it. So with Redstone, for example, we created a solution that from day one is EVM compatible. So we didn't have to think about like, oh, Ethereum or maybe ZK Sync Era or maybe Arbitrum or whatever. No, EVM compatible by design, because then we can move very quickly within this ecosystem. And then we observe like what are the new like opportunities there. We created, for example, implementation for Starknet because it's, let's say, within Ethereum ethos. And now we are observing like all the other interesting options, like Solana recently appreciated. There's also Ton, Telegram Open Network, which is like, has a pretty tough history, but is also like a very interesting concept from the, let's say, base layer. So yeah, this is our approach.
Thank you. Okay, let's reach to scalability, because like it's probably the second biggest problem in the field at the moment. So what innovative solutions and approaches are you exploring or maybe implementing to face this problem and to enhance its efficiency?
I can start. Yeah, for us is leveraging this great technology that is zero knowledge proofs. I think that enables a new frontier on how blockchains operate. Using these new technologies like CK coprocessors, I think it's like a very innovative solution coming out for implementing new primitives that can be integrated into multiple protocols or any kind of new infrastructure that is coming out. Really enables you like to bring very complex functionality that was impossible to have in the blockchain until now, and you can just have it in a very seamless way at the moment, like for example what we do with machine learning models.
Interesting. I'll go. Yeah, scalability is absolutely paramount in the ecosystem, and right now the graph, again, serves thousands of apps, 1 billion queries per day across 45,000 subgraphs, which is insane. But the key to scalability is decentralizing the protocol. So DPIN, decentralized physical infrastructure, where there are right now hundreds of indexers all around the world. And that scalability enables a dApp to go 10x, 20x, 30x in volume. And if one indexer can't fulfill the need, it automatically goes to the next one. So decentralized infrastructure is absolutely paramount for scaling the graph, which is powering a massive amount of Web3 data. I'd also say that we're working on things to help scale, let's say, Ethereum. When you're looking at EIP 4444, or even 4844, so proto-date charting, but 4444 is historical data, and the ecosystem has built something called Firehose technology that creates flat files, and that enables storage of information in a much more efficient way, and that will enable historical availability, data availability for all Ethereum information, and that's important to help Ethereum scale, so there are lighter nodes, so more people can push more decentralization and just make a more resilient chain, because the terabyte storage on each chain is freaking massive. like many, many terabytes, and that's only going to go up exponentially, especially as more chains come out. So we're working on a lot of different things. Storage is paramount, and scalability based on things like the graph and the different technologies we're building and the decentralized infrastructure is absolutely crucial to figure out, so that in 10 years, when it's dozens of terabytes for any given chain, it's we're able to handle that.
Yeah, so when I hear scalability, I always try to keep in my mind that it means like increasing the number of units without exponentially growing the cost, right? Because then you have inefficient like scale, the opposite of scalability. And to my mind, one of the biggest issue over here is like gas costs. So I think as we progress, of course, in the very beginning, you have to ideate on something, create a prototype or create something that gets users and gets like this, again, stickiness. And then once we achieve that, like progressively keep on adding like new layers of gas optimization. That's also the reason like with Redstone, like day one, our founder, Jacob, who used to be a smart contract auditor, created a very low-level UL code in order to optimize the whole process that is going like each step in the flow of data passing. And then talking about data, I would say this is the second very important piece that also Kyle mentioned, is where it's going to be stored and how it's going to be stored at scale. So recently we've seen Celestia launching. I hope that some of you were lucky enough to get some juicy airdrop over there. I've heard stories. A friend told me. And we also have like specific data storage networks, like Filecoin, of course, is a big one. Personally, I'm a big fan of Arweave, where you just pay once and then it's stored forever. Actually, like up to at least 200 years and then maybe even longer. So these kind of solutions, in my mind, especially besides DeFi, so with, for example, social media like Lens, Farcaster, CyberConnect, or any like content creator economy, which right now I would say it's not so hot, but I suppose you remember NFTs that were going like through the roof, like people were jumping on it like, yeah, I want this NFT, I want to create that. In my opinion, it's going to grow in importance extremely. Because right now, if you look at the L2 landscape, or even like roll-up as a service, or all of these services, they fight against like TPS and let's say the gas costs, but they are not looking at the data itself, how it's going to be solved. So I would be very looking in the next, let's say, 6 to 8 months on this other blockchain specified for data storage.
Yeah, since you mentioned data storage and data management, can you please name a few like emerging challenges and what kind of solution you're proposing and again implementing to make it work?
So I believe Kyle is going to be like an expert here because they are doing like specifically that product. But if I were to mention like two of them, one is retrievability. So, okay, it's cool that you can dump the data somewhere, but then there is a question how you can retrieve that data, how quickly you can retrieve it, and with like what kind of assumption that for sure it's going to be there, right? And then like the second area, in my opinion, is very important is like data management. Like how can you kind of map all the data that your system is like storing and like managing and when it's needed. Like let's say, because as Kyle mentioned, like the amount of data is growing, but in my opinion also like, let's say the complexity of interaction between the data is also growing and it's like many to many. So yeah, I would mention like these are two very important areas. And again, in my opinion, Arweave is really curious like animal over there in that space because, for example, there are specific use cases like Accord, WaveDB, like decentralized databases in order to efficiently create like solutions on top that could get pretty good attention over there.
What about NetMall space?
From our side, something that many clients ask is what kind of data you're using while building your solution. And the only way for us and that we find value and clients find value is on this new technology. This now is called storage proofs. It's something that is coming out very recently, and we see demand for in our case while building models to have the usage of storage proofs to have this data provenance since the beginning, so people can really understand like which data we are training their models on, or how they are using their data for inferencing, etc. So for us, it's like this new key piece of technology.
I'd say it's more of a reiteration of what I said, that there's so much storage right now in the graph ecosystem, and one company can't do that. Like It's reaching scalability issues on the hosted service, which is moving over to the decentralized network, and it's slowing things down. It's hurting front ends, and it needs to go. It needs to be spread out across hundreds, if not eventually thousands, of indexers on the network. And this is just for subgraph data. Again, the assembly script API that's found really good product market fit. We're thinking through SQL data. We're thinking through LLM data, natural language queries, and that will be able to ping the massive amount of data storage on the graph right now. But as data requirements get higher and more really scary in general, we're seeing different indexers concentrate on different types of data. So you see people that are really good at DeFi or NFTs or data analytics, and then you get businesses built on that. And so that compartmentalization of specialty, kind of the Adam Smith method of everyone just concentrate on what they're really good at, is actually working and scaling extremely well, because that enables one subset of dozens of indexers to be extremely good at one thing, and they don't have to worry about being really good at another thing. And so that's what not only the decentralized infrastructure, the decentralized aspect of specialization, again, around the world, all types of different people, is like crucial to make sure front ends don't brick. Yeah, so I'd say that's about it.
Okay. Since the data size is getting like that massive, you probably need some new security solutions for decentralized networks. So what are you working at?
Open source is key. Meaning, I don't know if I really like the guy's views on a lot of things, but Nassim Taleb's book, Anti-Fragile, is like if something is continuously barotted or attacked, and that means can continuously be audited, that is the only way to make sure it's truly secure. And so open source, everything where everyone can look at it, obviously constant audits and all that. But if you're working in a silo like Google or like Federal Reserve or any of these things that are just in these microcosm of data troves, they're just fragile. And I think they will end up breaking. So keeping things open source, inviting everyone to come attack it and make it more resilient, having massive bug bounty programs, like the Graph has I think unprecedented, $2 million bug bounty program, which is extremely important because so many people rely on it. That is, it's so crucial. So yeah, I think open source is always kind of the key there.
Thank you. Kyle, have to add something here? No?
Yeah, I totally top up what Kyle has mentioned. One thing I would like to also bring is the Web2 security, because many times in Web3 security, we are thinking only about smart contracts, flash loans, and so on. But apparently, if you look historically on all of the hacks, many of them were simple Web2 hacks. So let's say the front-end got hacked, and for example, the keys were lost. So recently, for example, we created a research on LST. Market. If you go to Redstone Twitter, you're going to see that. And there's a really interesting story of Stakehound. I don't know if you've heard, but basically a company, Fireblocks, is deemed to have lost 2 out of 3 keys that were necessary to move funds. And right now, over 100 millions of Ether is sitting on a smart contract that no one has access to. And now, who is to blame? Naturally, you have to have this Web2 security also in place, because there are threats all the time that some people keep on not neglecting, let's say, focusing only on the smart contract side.
Really, one quick thing I'd add there, and that reminded me is, and I sound like a broken record, but a decentralized tech stack is crucial to not getting anything shut down, because Americans are crazy. They're going to come and try to regulate the hell out of everything, and if there's one central choke point, they're going to go after it. And whether it's a financial aspect, whether eventually it's the infrastructure, if they even understand what's going on with the infrastructure, decentralizing the tech stack and creating resilient global infrastructure resilience is paramount to really have this not shut down. Because if one country or many countries go crazy, that's really the only way. So a DApp is not a DApp if it's based on centralized infra. It's just an app, and an app is just more Web2 technology that'll have the same Web2 results, including choke points, which is the most important for, I think, security and safety.
Okay, on regulatory stuff, how do you think, how do the current regulatory frameworks across like different regions impact the development and deployment of technologies? And what steps are you guys taking to comply with these regulations?
For us as a machine learning company, our main problem is about the data. And you need to comply with all these regulations on this data security, because it's not just about, yeah, you use the on-chain data and that's it, because the data is public. But in the end, you don't use that data only. You transform that data, you create value with this data for these companies, and securing all this data for these companies that then like extract value from them using the models they build is like much valuable than just being decentralized or what kind of regulation they have. And for us, like complying with GDPR in terms of the client security or what is in the US is like most important to the clients that we are working with, at least in the DeFi ecosystem.
Okay.
Guys, attention. Who knows what open is? Open protocol. Please raise your hand. All right, not that many, but it's like an options protocol. And today I saw a news that two of the co-founders are leaving crypto space entirely just because of the regulatory framework and like the kind of legal action they're taking against, which also shows like in the US, it's going to be tough. At least my personal view, it's like not like a temporary thing, it's going to be tough, probably like long. It is inventable, but it's also like pretty interesting when you're among the co-founders of Web3 startups, especially right now. The regular question is, oh, Cayman BVI or something else? Like, what are islands you are have you ever been there? Yeah, I mean, like it's a regular, let's say, legal framework because there's a beaten path, and these guys are very, very happy to accept the money for legal work or whatever over there, which created a very weird scenario. Like, I would never like to tell my mom that my company is registered in Cayman Islands. Redstone, in the end, is in Switzerland because we're in Europe, so I'm very happy actually with that. But we were also at the risk of like going there, and I really, like personally, my personal values were like, that sounds so scammy and like weird, and I want to create infrastructure. I don't want to like set up a company in Cayman Islands. So I would say what we are going to see a lot is going to be the same companies, the same frameworks, differentiating very little, but doing it for specific regions. So for example, tokenized, let's say, stablecoins backed by bonds or like tokenized assets. In the US, one of the popular ones is Ondo, for example, whereas in Asia, I think the most popular is Matrix Doc. And right now we have in Europe, in Germany, a newcomer who is Midas App. So you see, like all of them are doing fairly the same thing, like not that much innovation, but they are just focusing on the regulatory framework as the main differentiator. So in my opinion, in my view, especially in DeFi, we are going to see more and more of these kind of like movements.
Well, first off, on behalf of Americans, I apologize for us being so insane, and I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. With regards to regulatory progress or lack thereof, I don't care. We don't concentrate on it. What we do concentrate on is being sufficiently decentralized. There is a Graph Foundation. There are now 7 core devs. There could be dozens more. There are over 50,000 people participating on the Graph network. And so, maybe hopefully I'd say if someone ever came to us and say, shut down, like, we would be sufficiently decentralized. And so that's existential for us. And not only is it leading to the most performant technology and the most fair and transparent outcome, it's making us anti-fragile. So that's one reason we're doing it. We have to be, the ecosystem has to be anti-fragile across the tech layer, across the people layer, across the economic layer, and like that's our mission. And that's why it's so important that we do this before something happens and they try to lock us up or something like that.
Yeah, that's impressive. Thank you.
Just one thing I want. But we have to remember that it's not a game of cat and mouse. Like, we have to understand also empathically, like, the other side. Like, many regulations are also there to ensure that the markets are healthy and, you know, like the bad actors cannot like fraud people and scam people. I'm not saying that all of them, some of them are also like pretty weird, but I would say empathy is crucial over here to also understand which rules are actually for the good, let's say, of the whole space.
Did Gary Gensler pay you to say that? But I agree with that. That makes sense, and you have to at least feel for it and understand it, because if not, it becomes like a we versus them, us versus them thing, and as opposed to being combative, you can just keep working on your mission and not take it personally.
Yep.
Yeah, because the dialogue and the other side is not listening, that's bad.
Yep.
But also like it shouldn't be us versus them again, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Like again, like the market, the whole industry is getting way more mature, so it's kind of inventable. We have to work, so it is. So okay, the last one. How do you guys see the future of infrastructure is in next, like, I don't know, like 2, 3, 5 years? So maybe something, some things you're very excited about, and how your project positioning themselves to be on like a forefront of this evolution.
Okay, I can start. For us, our vision in the next 5 years is how can you offload from the current blockchain functionality using CK coprocessors to bring more cheaper usage of functionalities, protocols, and even bring more complexities into protocols. So for us, it's not only about offloading the current load, but how to enhance the current functionalities that are not possible at the moment in the blockchain. And in our specific cases, how we can help DeFi bring more complex functionality through the usage of ML, more in the edge of these protocols, and how they can be more capital efficient, how they can better manage risk, and help them from the infrastructure side, how to accomplish that in a scalable and secure way.
I'd say we see hyper-fragmentation of chains. Like everyone and their aunt is building a layer 2 and brand new chain, new virtual machine. Really not virtual machines. They're at least using consistent stacks, Orbit stack, OP stack, CKVM, and others, Cosmos SDK, all these different things. But I see that continuing, and we need to figure out how to serve that. A couple things that the graph ecosystem done is streamline the ability to integrate a new chain. Before, it's been kind of a blocked process, and so now any chain can put on the graph forum that they want new chain integration, and it's a pretty streamlined process. It's less expensive. It's less expensive for us because it goes to all the indexers, and they can spin up a full node and be able to serve data or not. With non-EVM, that Firehose technology I mentioned enables non-EVM chains to create a protobuf repository, creating those flat files, but essentially translate the gRPC so that the graph node can work with non-EVM chains, and that's unblocked many new chains. We just had my buddy, colleague Pranav and I just had a meeting this morning again, talking through that, whereas before it would be 2 years of building. It took us 2 years to integrate Solana, and this could have unlocked it in a matter of months. And it can be permissionless, open source tech, so they can do it on their own, which is freaking awesome. And that's really important, that chains are unblocked. So it's non-EVM, EVM, everyone, where there's 40 plus chains. We're probably going to see hundreds of chains on the graph eventually, which is exciting. And then again, open source, so people can run a graph node locally on their own if they need to, because it's become a standard that most dApps use, and we don't want to be a blocker. We hate being blockers, and that's why we believe in open source, so everyone can just get it and not have to worry about anything, and then run it on their own. But I do see, yeah, who knows how many chains are going to be in the next 5 years, and it's pretty crazy, but we'll see how the ecosystem evolves.
It is crazy, and in my opinion, it's going to keep on being crazy. And actually, this is nothing bad, at least to my understanding, because it's like a free competition. If you're willing to burn money on creating a new chain, go ahead. But if you're going to burn that money and create a sticky product, then it turned out that your chain is going to keep having traction. Like, we also have chains that are pretty very local, like, I know, Astar Network, this is like a pretty Japanese chain, and so on and so forth. So there are various verticals upon which like the chains are going to position themselves. And we shouldn't, in my opinion, hate it or like neglect it. We just should adapt. As Kyle mentioned, I totally top it up, that we should be just ready for this omni-chain future of layer 1s, layer 2s, roll-up as a service, layer 3s, whatever we are going to see, so that we are pretty agile and quick to move. We cannot just stick there and sit, because the innovation cycle in Web3 is like, what, 3 months? Yeah, so in my opinion, this is what it's going to be. And my last take, and I probably is pretty controversial, in my opinion, AI in the next year is going to have even more impact on, let's say, Web3 application as a whole than ZKs. The reason for that is because I'm really interested in ZKs, but whenever I try to look into specific implementation, it is expensive, it is usually slow. I'm not, okay, layer 2s, layer 3s, okay, fine, but like other types of like ZK applications, they will need time. They're going to truly like disrupt the space, but probably a bit of a longer period than a year. And AI and machine learning, as you guys know, and you can use it in your phone, is disrupting it right now. So it's just a matter of application, like finding the people who can truly create like value on top of it. Because with ZK, even if you're a magician, like you're not going to like decrease the cost like of a magnitude within, let's say, 3 months, right?
Yeah, thank you. Since we're running out of time, if someone has questions, feel free, because we have like 1 minute. Someone?
All regulatory questions go to Marcin.
No, no one. Okay, I have to thank you for being here. Thank my panelists. It was quite insightful.
Good job.
Thank you.
Gracias.